Hello, hello, hello. In today's episode of the podcast, I'm going to be talking about Google Ads budget approval. As a business leader, you approve Google Ads, but it's not getting you the customers you want. I'm going to discuss some things that people don't tell you about Google Ads. I'm not saying Google Ads is bad, but as a business leader, you need to understand some certain fundamentals, and this will guide your thinking to ask the right questions from the people managing your Google Ads. What I'm trying to say here is you do not have any business going into the account, but you do owe it to your business to make sure that Google is not a cost center. It's an investment that brings customer, that builds your brand, that builds your market share. That is the good thing about Google Ads. So one thing I want you to understand about Google Ads is it has a default setting, and that default setting puts Google first. Irrespective of what happens, Google will make money for the clicks that comes to your website. Google believes it's your responsibility. Whatever happens to the traffic that they send to you, it's your responsibility. And Google operates a no refund policy. So if you set up Google Ads and sends you 10,000 traffic, and those traffic are not optimized properly when they land on your website, then you've wasted money. But Google will give you metrics that makes you feel happy. Those metrics like click-through rate, impression, even rankings for the positions your Google Ads appear in. That is just metrics that makes you feel good. It doesn't really impact on your bottom line. Your own interest is sales and customer lifetime value. So let's talk about the mistakes that people make. And these are the things you need to ask your team. As a business leader, you need to ask them, what are your keywords targeting? Google fundamentally would want you to target a broad range, like a broad match keyword. What this means is you have that risk of getting huge volume of traffic through Google Ads, but it's not about quantity, but quality. So one thing you need to ask your team as a business leader is, what are the keywords that you're targeting? Ask them that simple question. Are they broad match or are they exact match that matches people that are ready to buy? One thing you need to understand again is not everybody that clicks on your ads are ready to buy. The Herrenberg and Bass Institute talked about the 95-5 rule. What this rule means is out of 100% of customers in the market or people in the market, only 5% of them are actually ready to buy now. 95% of them might be interested, but they're not ready to buy. So if your Google Ads targeting is structured in a way that is appealing to the whole 100%, you're only going to get 5% of those buying, and you would have wasted 95% of your budget. So what I'm trying to say is your Google Ads should only target people that are ready to buy. And the best way for you to do that is to ask your team as a business leader, how are we making sure that the 95% of people that are not ready to buy, how are we blocking them off? So the first question you're going to ask them is, hope we're not targeting everybody. And if we're targeting everybody, what are we doing to make sure that the people that arrive on our website, that we're able to filter that 95% of people that are not ready to buy? And you also need to start asking the question, because I mentioned earlier on about customer lifetime value. You need to understand that Google works in an ecosystem. What I mean by this is Google Ads is not the only channel. There'll be multiple touch points that people use to interact. They're going to come through even email. You can get email signups from other maybe events or other channels. People sign up. The email can then nudge those people, nurture them. And then people then come through organic. People come through social media, Meta ads, TikTok. So the 95% of people that I was referring to that are not ready to buy now, at some point, they'll be ready to buy. So your Google Ads needs to be structured in a way where you have certain part of the budget tailored to those people that are not actually ready to buy, but they also need to be aware of your brand before, and then when they're ready to buy, then they come to your website. Another question you need to ask people to make sure that you're not wasting your Google Ads budget is, what exactly is the cost per conversion, cost per acquisition, because it's easy to focus on metrics that don't matter. You know, your metric is sale. You want to know exactly how much are we spending to get a customer, and how much are we wasting, and what are we tracking? What does conversion looks like? So in some instances, I've worked in organizations where there's an incentive to optimize for the wrong conversion. So once your Google Ads is tracking the wrong conversion, those conversions that are further away from the actual sale, then you're not getting customers because those people are actually not ready to buy and they will not buy. Then there's also the question of control. As a business leader, for you to know that the budget that you approved is not being wasted, you need to ask your team, how much of our Google Ads campaign do we control? What I mean by this is Google is coming up with different iterations and improvements to Google Ads. Some of these improvements are good. Some of them are geared towards taking control away. Google expects you to just give them the money and they would get you the conversion and they will do their razzmatazz. And just give us the money and sit back, we'll do everything for you. This is good and this is bad. Because if you hand over control to Google 100%, then you're not able to control what happens. So as a business leader, you need to ask your team, what exactly is the level of control that we are handing over to Google as opposed to what we can control? So this is in two parts. You have some campaigns where you hear things like manual bidding, where you actually have very good level of control. And then you have the automation side of things, where you just hand over control. So you need to ask them those questions to make sure that, okay, they know, because most people want things easy. So there's that incentive to just hand over everything to Google and you do less work and you're just creating assets, creating content. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. But if you don't ask those questions, there's a high likelihood that you'll be wasting money. Then I mentioned metrics earlier on. Google by default measures last click. What this means is, irrespective of the touch points that people interact with, the last channel or the last medium that they click on and then the sales happen, Google gives that credit. So what this means is, whilst last click is good, it doesn't really tell the full picture. So as a business leader, when you're approving your Google Ads budget, you need to ask the question, what is the measurement framework that your team is using to measure attribution? If they're using last click model, then you need to ask them, how sure are you about this way of measuring? Because there are better ways to measure your attribution. You have the multi-touch attribution that kind of helps you understand that attribution cannot just be attributed to one channel alone, because people come to your website maybe through Google Ads, they're not ready to buy, they go away, they come in through SEO, they're not ready to buy, they're going through maybe LinkedIn ads or YouTube ads. They're different channels that people coming through. So what I'm trying to say is, one single channel should not be getting the full credit of your conversion, because there's something also called assisted conversion. So you need to ask your team those questions. Then when you're approving the budget as well, you need to ask your team, like, okay, what are the default setting that is running? It sounds like micromanagement, but you want to know that, okay, are we just automating everything, or is there like default setting that is just running everything? You want to ask them, okay, what are the conversion tracking setup? Because this past few months, the past 18 months to 2 years, Google has iterated, not Google, there's been a lot of iteration with tracking. So you have the consent mode, you have situations where people are not really consenting to being tracked. And sometimes if you do not have the correct tracking setup, then your Google Ads tracking would not be giving you the right results, and you have the possibility of wasting your Google Ads budget and not getting the results that you want. This is a very, very short video, but what I'm trying to say in essence is, as a business leader, to ensure that you're not wasting your Google Ads budget, you first need to ask your team about the targeting. Make sure they're not targeting a broad match keyword. You need to make sure that they are filtering away irrelevant bad clicks from your campaigns. You also need to make sure that you ask them the question about the tracking. Are they tracking in terms of attribution model? Are they using last click, or are they using what do you call it? Marketing mix modeling, and the different other attribution and different kind of tracking that you can use. So ask them, what exactly is the actual cost per acquisition? You don't want to be focused on just cost per click. And are we measuring the right conversion events? Because sometimes you can have situations where the conversion setup on your website is not the actual conversion. It's further away from the sales. So you need to make sure those questions are asked. And then you also need to look at, okay, how much money are you spending on your brand terms, and how much money are you spending on your non-branded terms? And also the level of control. You don't want to give all the control to Google and just sit back and just watch Google do all the optimization. You want to maintain a level of control. Having said all this, as a business leader, you know that, for example, in your accounts department, you have people come in as auditors to audit, and they're external to your account team. They give you a third perspective, a second opinion, and helps you make sure everything is functioning well, so you avoid issues down the line. You can apply the same principle to Google Ads. You can hire a contractor or a growth marketing consultant like myself that is separate from your team. This person will give you a direct opinion. So it's like you're bringing in an auditor to look at your Google Ads and make recommendations to you as a business leader, whilst you don't have that hands-on experience, but you can get those second opinion from a growth marketing consultant like myself to help you understand that, okay, I don't have a skin in the game, but I can help you look at your accounts, try and understand, okay, what can you improve? What is working? What is not working? Are you targeting the right personas? Is your branding on point? Because I mentioned in an earlier video that branding is a problem with some organization. They just run into performance marketing without having their brand strategy nailed on. So these are the things you can do to make sure that your Google Ads, your Google Ads budget that you approve is actually going to deliver you the right customers. Reach out to me. I can help you with auditing your Google Ads and giving you that a second opinion. And if you don't have a Google Ads team, you can hire me as well to help you set up your Google Ads and continuously make sure that it's optimized for growth and performance, that you're getting the right customers. My name is Femi Olajiga. You can connect with me on LinkedIn, and you can also follow this podcast. If you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe to the channel and reach out to me, and I'll be happy to help you make sure that the Google Ads budget that you approve will get you all the customers that will sustain your business in the long term. Thank you very much.